Hello and welcome back. Today I am going to talk about the Chase Sapphire Reserve. This is a card that I've had for about a year and a half, and my 2-year anniversary will basically be December of 2025. And my original plan had been to do a review of the card in December and kind of talk about whether or not I feel like after having it for 2 years, it's worth the $550 a year price tag. Now, things have changed, and Chase just put out recent news that they are actually going to increase the price and change a lot of the benefits. So I'm going to talk about two things. First of all, I will go over whether or not I do feel like the last year and a half has been worth it. And then I'll talk about whether or not I think that with the new changes, this is something that I think would make me more apt to keep the card or less. So let's dive in. If you're new here, my name's Kyria, and I've been traveling for over 25 years, and in 2024, I retired early to travel the world full-time. First, I'll go over what the original benefits were for the card. So let me just check my notes here. So the card was $550 a year, but you did get a $300 travel credit. So essentially, the cost of that was $250 a year. It gave 3 points on all travel, including hotels, airlines, transportation, rental cars, and transit. This also included things like Booking.com, Airbnb, and other non-hotel websites. Also 3 times points for dining worldwide and 1 times points on all other purchases. So for me, the 3 times points on travel was one of the main reasons I got this card. I liked the fact that even though I didn't really want to stay in a hotel all the time, I could still get some benefit from using my card to get points for alternate types of accommodation. Also, I do use public transportation a lot. Of course, the dollar amount on that isn't a lot, but the accommodation was one of the main reasons. I don't really fly too much, but when I do use the card. But I mean, those are a couple $100 here and there, so it's really not a huge benefit to me for flights. And I rarely ever pay for a hotel. I usually use points for that, so the 3 times points on hotels wasn't really a huge draw for me either. The next thing was a 1.5 cent points redemption through the Chase Travel Portal. I've actually never used the Chase Travel Portal. I don't find that the prices really are that competitive, so to me that was not really something that was a huge benefit. You also get a $120 credit for TSA Pre or Global Entry every 4 years. For me, this was nice. I do have TSA Pre and Global Entry, but there are a lot of other cards that offer that benefit as well. In fact, a couple of the other cards I have offer that benefit. So that reason alone isn't really good enough for me to keep the card. The card also offers Priority Pass airline lounge access, and I personally am not sure that this is really a great benefit for me. Now, I know that if a flight is delayed or there's some sort of reason that you have to be in the airport for a long time, this can be a really great thing. And depending on the lounge or location, this can also be really nice. But in the 6 or 7 airports that I've been in this year, or in the last 12 months basically, it hasn't really panned out to be that much better than getting a glass of wine and a sandwich at the bar. So although it is nice to have a place to go and everything, some of the places I've been actually haven't had lounges, including my main airport is San Francisco, SFO, and there's 2 international gates, and the one that I flew out of was the one that doesn't have the lounges, and of course they do give a discount on a couple of the restaurants, but that really isn't the same. So I haven't really been able to benefit from that as much as I would have liked. That was one of the main other reasons I signed up for the card, aside from the 3 times points. They also offer DoorDash and DoorDash credits as well as Lyft credits. And even when I was in San Francisco, I didn't really use Lyft that much, and I never used DoorDash. So those 2 things weren't really a huge draw for me either. And then now that I'm abroad all the time, they definitely aren't, because Lyft is not really international. And again, I don't really use DoorDash, so I actually don't know if it's available internationally, but even if it was, it's not something that's really that great of a perk for me. The last thing that is one of the draws for me as well was the travel protection and purchase protection. This card has a lot of different travel insurances and protections, and some of them are quite good, including auto insurance and an emergency evacuation and medical transportation of up to $100,000. There's also baggage insurance, delay insurance, trip delay insurance, things like that I think are very helpful. However, I've never had to file a claim for any of those, so I can't speak to whether or not that's actually a smooth process. So there's a few other perks that the card has, but those are the basic ones. And so if I was going to look back on the last year and a half and go over those things and whether or not I think those would make the card worth it for me, I would be leaning towards no. Bear with me now. I'll talk about some of the changes and then we'll talk about whether or not my tune has changed. Okay, so as you can see here, this is the website kind of announcing the new changes, which will take effect on June 23rd. If you are thinking about applying for this card, if you apply before June 23rd, you'll be able to get the $550 annual fee instead of the new one, which is $795. So that's the first big change. The new annual fee is $795. So let's go over this a little bit. As you can see, they're offering 8 times points on anything booked through the Chase travel portal. And like I said, for me, that's not that big of a deal because I never really booked things through the Chase travel portal anyway. They're also now giving 4 times points if you book directly with an airline or hotel. So that is higher than before because it was 3 times points before. However, the downside of that is that they're decreasing everything else to 1 times points. So it's only airlines and hotels will be 4 times points, and all the other things that I talked about before, like Airbnb and whatnot, it seems like those are only going to be 1 times points. To me, that is a huge negative. Even though they've increased the airlines and hotels to 4 times, so if this is something that you use a lot, this would be good. For me, that is not necessarily a good thing. They're also offering up to $500 annually if you book in specific resort hotels through the edit. Basically, the fine print on this is it's actually $250 credit from January 1st to June 30th, and then another $250 credit from July 1st to December 31st. So you really only would get a $250 credit for your booking. And I kind of looked into this because I thought, well, maybe that could be something that could be worth it. Basically, these are for premium stays at resort hotels. And the first one here, the Ritz Paris, I thought, well, let me just check and see how much it is. And it's essentially about $5,500 for a 2-night stay. Oh, the other fine print is that you have to stay 2 nights. The next thing is that they're still going to offer the $300 travel credit, which I'm really glad to see. So even if that's the only thing you use, you'll pay about $495 in total for the card. So they're also adding a thing called Points Boost, where your points could be worth up to 2 times on things booked through the travel portal. However, like I said, sometimes the travel portal is a little more expensive, so in the end, I don't know if it's really going to be worth the 2 times that they're saying it's going to be worth. So for me, that doesn't seem like something that will give me personally any value. They are still keeping the lounge access, including 2 free guests, which is really nice. So that's definitely a perk if that's something that you use often. They're now also offering IHG Platinum Elite status, and this could be a great thing if you don't already have Elite status or if you don't have the IHG Platinum card. But I personally already do have the IHG Platinum card, which is a $95 charge per year, so I could save that, but it also does give me 1 free night stay, and so I think for me, the IHG card already kind of ticks this box. For dining, they are keeping 3 times points worldwide, which is great. This is definitely something that I also find value in. And the other thing they're adding is up to $300 annually for select restaurants booked through OpenTable. So I read the fine print on this, and basically what it says is that, again, just like the other one, you don't get $300 all at once. You get $150 at the first half of the year and $150 at the second half of the year. And if I didn't mention this before, you actually need to spend the money. So you don't get a voucher that you can then use. You only get a voucher if you already spend the money, then they give you a credit onto your card. So it's not received until you've already spent the money. I did look and see if this would be any restaurants that I would use or that I recognize. And basically there is a list of restaurants or cities that have restaurants in them. Most of them are in the US. There's a few in Canada and Mexico, but there are no international locations. So if these are cities that you go to, this might be helpful for you. But otherwise, if you're more of an international traveler, this might not really have a lot of value. I did look at San Francisco just to double check, and it does have a lot of restaurants that I've been to before and I do enjoy. So I think if I was home, this would definitely be something I would get value out of. However, now that I'm traveling, I would have to cram basically 2 visits in, 1 in December and 1 in January or something like that, or 1 in June and 1 in July to try to get the most bang for my buck. So I probably would use one of them, but I don't know if I would use the whole $300, to be honest. So this probably would give me about $150 in value, possibly up to $300 in value. The other thing that they've added, which may be very helpful to a lot of people, is a complimentary membership to Apple TV and Apple Music. And they're saying this is about a value of $250. So if this is something you already use, this could be incredibly valuable. Or if this is something you've been wanting to use. Again, for me, I don't use either of them, and I don't know that I would. So this doesn't hold a lot of weight for me, but I know a lot of people love it. So that could be something very useful. And then they're still keeping the DoorDash membership, but they're bumping it up a little bit to $420 worth of value. And they're keeping the Lyft benefit, and that's $120 worth of value and 5 times points. Once again, both of these perks are given in a monthly reimbursement if you spend the money. So after you spend it, they reimburse you basically up to a certain amount. They also have a Peloton benefit of $120 annually and 10 times points. And then another one they just added is StubHub, up to $300 in annual credits. And the fine print on this is the same as the others. It's $150 on the first half of the year and $150 on the second half of the year. The other thing that they do is that if you spend more than $75,000 in one calendar year, you will also get IHG Diamond Elite status. You'll also get a $500 Southwest Airlines credit and A-list status with Southwest Airlines. In addition, you'll get $250 to shop at the shops at Chase. Essentially, they're saying that all of these benefits all together are adding up to about $2,700 worth of perks. I think the only ones that are really that great for me are the dining credit. So let's just say I could use $300 worth of it. And the TSA pre-global entry is nice, but I do have that with other cards. But even if I count that, that's roughly about $30 a year. So with all that plus the $300 travel credit, I'm still ending up paying. And I'm not sure that I'm getting the amount of use out of it that I wanted to have. I haven't covered all of the changes, so you'll have to look into it yourself and see if this is something you think is a benefit to you. But I would say for me, with all these new changes, I will probably be leaning towards not keeping this card. So I still have a little ways to go because they are not making the changes take effect for existing card members until after October. And so that will be when my yearly fee will change. So I can kind of wait until then to decide. But right now I will think it over a little bit more, but I'm kind of leaning towards probably not keeping this card. So let me know in the comments, do you have the Sapphire Reserve? And if so, have you heard about these changes? What do you think about them? Do you think you'll keep the card or not? If you don't have the card, is this something that would make you sign up for it? Or is this something that kind of makes you think twice? And then I'm really curious to hear if you have a card that has lounge access or other perks, like for instance, the Amex Platinum or any of those other higher end cards. Do you like it? Do you like the benefits that you receive from it? And tell me why. Because I may be in the market now for a new card, and so I'd be really interested to hear what card you use and whether or not you think it's worth it and why. If this has been helpful to you, please like and subscribe. And once again, thank you very much for watching and happy travels.